Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Danville. And to begin, the winner of last week's viewer's favorite question was separation from Tika Carr. Congratulations, Tika. However, all the questions had support and there was a good mix of voting, which I like to see. This week, our first question comes to us from Reverend Vivian. And Reverend Vivian's question is this. Reverend Vivian belongs to an astral projection group, and recently they have been having a debate about morality in the astral plane. And their debate is whether or not the things you do in the astral affect everyday morality or are subject to the rules of everyday morality. They, of course, choose to use the term ethics, which is very fashionable, but I prefer the term morality because I think that most people regard the term ethics as being very optional and very loose. Which I do not think is a particularly good way to look at it, but I am pretty much the only person who says this, although I do try to convince others that morality is the better word because people actually take it seriously. But that has nothing to do with this question inherently, that's just a matter of terminology. As to the question of whether the things you do on the astral plane are subject to the same rules of morality, I would have to start by saying that there's more than one place in the astral plane, and it kind of depends on where you are and why you're there. If when we talk about astral projection, you're out adventuring in this physical world interacting with people that you know or people who are currently living, then in my opinion, it's no different from meeting them in physical life. The same basic rules apply. What is a good thing to do is still a good thing to do in the astral. What is a bad thing to do is still a bad thing to do in the astral. And the particular question that's being debated by the astral projection group is whether having sex in the astral constitutes infidelity in the physical. And I would say that in this case, when you're working with the physical world through the astral, the answer would be yes. If you're meeting someone that you actually know for astral sex, I would say that would be no different than meeting someone physically. Now, on the other hand, if you're world walking, if you're going into other spheres of existence, if you're going into the spirit world, in any of its many manifestations, if you're working with your guides, if you're working with visions, it's another matter. This is also part of the astral plane, but it's a very different experience. And in this case, many of the things that happen will be symbolic in character. And things that occur there are separate from the everyday world. So, you know, if you're on a shamanic journey, or in the land of the dead, etc., the things that happen there aren't quite the same as the things that happen here, and they often, again, will take a symbolic form. Just the other day I was speaking with someone who was telling us about a disturbing vision they had had in what I would consider astral projection in the other world. They had gone on a shamanic journey, and in this shamanic journey they were obliged to kill an owl and drink its blood. But they were obliged to do this by the owl itself, which was a guide to them, and when they had finished, they realized that this was merely a symbolic way of taking the energy of the owl into themselves. And this is an example of how things can be very symbolic when working with guides and spirits, and very different from astral projecting in the physical world. So in that case, I would say that no, the things that happen there are subject to somewhat different rules because the way that you experience them can be very different. They can be very symbolic, and very often the things that are transpiring may not be intelligible to your conscious thinking mind, and therefore will take a symbolic shape that you more easily understand. That's not the same as saying, well, I'm going to go on an astral journey and have sex with Kate who lives next door. That, I think, would be subject to the same rules as everyday life, but when you're going on a shamanic journey where you're in the hands of the spirits, it's another matter. So, although it's a somewhat complex answer, it is a complex question, and I hope that my answer is helpful to you, and until next time, may you blessed be.